and welcome to the Queers On podcast with me, Holly Noble.
And me, Alex Mitchell. And this week we have a very special guest. Our first episode of a special guest. It is my Britain's Got Talent brother, comrade, soldier, I don't know.
Yeah, brother.
Mike Woodhams, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Woodhams is here. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike. I really appreciate you coming on and spending your time with us. I mean, we've had quite a strange year.
Yeah, it's been
a
bizarre.
lot has gone on. Very strange, very strange. So we've actually only met a couple of times because we met on the set of the final of Britain's Got Talent when we met on rehearsals, and
Yeah,
that was a stressful experience, wasn't it? That was a mad old day.
yeah. Yeah. It was such a strange day that day. And it was. I think a lot of people when they're on the show kind of thought that we all hung out together all the time, but we were sort of kept quite separate quite often, weren't we? Which
Yeah, we were
so it
kept
was
so separate. Yeah.
yeah. So it was a bit of a sort of It was kind of nice to kind of finally meet everyone on that day.
Were you nervous for it? Because I was terrified because we hadn't met each other. That was the bit I was more nervous for, was meeting everybody, because I was like, I've seen all these people on the telly. Like, it was like literally, I was almost starstruck. It was very strange. Like, it was,
Yeah, it was one of those things. I think it's just a bit bizarre because, yeah, I guess because the only reference you have of those people is like we've seen each other's like audition episode maybe, or kind of, do you know what I
yeah,
mean? You're like, oh, that's that person from the that I saw on TV. So yeah, you're
yeah.
absolutely right. It was a bit bizarre.
I mean, when we get through the semi-final as well, you get through with one other person. So when you go to the semi-finals, you know one other person, and you sort of hang about with them for a bit. But I mean, mine was a bit weird because my semi-final was on the Friday night, and the final was on the Sunday. And I've got no shame in this. Me and the other person who went through on the Friday night, we celebrated big on the Friday night. So we turned up to rehearsals at the Apollo. Like, we were absolutely. I mean, I was still drunk pretty much at rehearsals that day. Like, it was not so. Add
Love
to the
that.
fear of the whole thing. Yeah, added in that was a mad experience. Then you sort of met everyone. It was very very strange, but it was a crazy experience. Like, my favourite bit of it was me, you, and Sydney Christmas, who won the show. At one point, we were in the Daily Mail fashion column, and that was my highlight of the whole experience for me.
Were we? I didn't know that.
We were. It was amazing because we were like, it was on the day of the rehearsals for the finals, for the Saturday, and there's a video. We get like green rooms and we camp outside the Apollo, is how it worked. And we walked
Mm.
across, and then we got Paps walking across, and Sydney's looking, stunning as ever. You're looking great, and then they wrote like what we were wearing. They were like, Sydney looked amazing with a face of no makeup, didn't it? And it's like Mike was had a holdover and was looking slim wearing this. And it had, for me, it just said Alex was wearing some kind of football shirt. That's all I got.
It was
Yeah.
just like that whole thing though of just appearing in papers generally was so bizarre. Like I don't know. It was just so. It was that to me was so weird because I had people
It was very
messaging me like
strange.
after my audition had been on and been like, "Have you seen her in the paper?" And I was a bit like, "What? Like why?" It was. So yeah, I found all that like really really that just so weird. And then kind of I think there was one article somewhere, I can't remember what it was on, but it sort of said that I had like it kind of made out like that on stage I'd like propositioned I can't remember which one's which. Um, the taller of the two, and been like, and been like, come home with me, and I was like, ah, it was, but yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah, I mean, we all got some kind of abuse from the tabloids, but it was that kind of thing was very strange. And
When I sort of realized I was or kind of was told I was going to be on the show, for me, this whole thing just happened by accident anyway. So it was all like, oh, this is, the sort of whole impressions thing was something that I decided to just do for myself because I sort of, I sing and gig and I'd sort of, I think, gotten to a stage where I was like, oh, I just fancy doing something different. So I was like, oh, why don't I just try this thing in like the back office? And the reason that I did it on TikTok was because I didn't like know anyone on there to follow me, so I could just do it semi
yeah,
anonymously. Do you know what I mean? And sort of do it on my own. So yeah, I mean, I don't think necessarily being like on social media per se sort of like helped me out, but my sort of the reason that I was on social media doing what I was doing was a bit like every time they were like, "Oh, you've got through to the next stage," I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess we'll do that then." So,
Yeah.
you know, it sort of just seemed very lucky to be on to the next bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is sort of very similar in terms of I just sort of, well, you just didn't know where the show was going to take you at any point. You
Mm,
didn't know where you were going to end up. And so when you started to progress through and things, it just got more and more ridiculous. And I remember like the weirdest thing for me was my audition. The auditions aired on the Saturday nights, and I was still working as a teacher. And I remember
mm.
going to work on the Monday morning and like stopping off at Tesco and buying a meal deal like I usually do, and like walking to Tesco and not being able to get out of Tesco. It was just like I was like, okay, I didn't think it was going to get this reaction. I'm just being an idiot on stage. Like that's all I do. Like it wasn't. And
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
was sort
yeah,
of the moment I was like, this is mad. Like, and I didn't, I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know the show still has that power. Obviously, back in the day, the show was massive, and it still is. But I didn't realize it still had that power to do
yeah,
what it does. Like, it's
yeah,
ridiculous. Like, it was bonkers,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
bonkers. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
and I mean,
bizarre.
you
I
two,
was actually when my audition aired, I was doing like I was at a like I was singing at someone's wedding, and then like
that's
all my
amazing.
bandmates were like, "Oh, your audition is going to be on. Should we go watch it?" So we were sort of like gathered in this tiny room with like the photographer who I'd never met and like a cake decorator or a floor. I can't remember. And you know when you're just like watching it and everyone's looking at you, looking at the TV, and I was like, I don't know what you want. I don't know what you need from me right now.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
it yeah, it was, and then obviously then it was like, yeah, Denise wants her first dance now, so you got to go. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, just oh yeah, okay.
Absolutely bonkers, wasn't it? Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is you and Holly. So I don't know if you had some experience when I was told I got through to the semi-finals and they wanted me to do the live shows. They then have a whole
Mm,
thing where they send around a crew and they have to film your like VT package before you go out on the show. Now I was told like
mm,
you can't tell anyone this has happened. I don't know if you were able to if you told anybody or whatever. But I was told I couldn't tell anyone. And then they went for the VT package. They had this great idea where they wanted to film they wanted to stage a fake comedy night, right? And we went back to the venue. I played my first ever gig, and they were like, "Oh, we can't get extras in. You're going to have to tell people, invite people." So I invited all my friends who were comedians down, and we staged this comedy night. And we were like 10 in the morning, and the bar was so excited to have us. But the bar kept making suggestions, like so they set up the stage and the lighting, the crew around it was amazing. And then the bar went, "Oh, it doesn't look very realistic. Like, do you want drinks?" And we were like, "Yeah, okay." But it was 10 in the morning, and they were giving us like tequila sunrise and like so, and it was just the weirdest. That was my favorite experience of the whole thing because it was just absolutely so surreal that all sort of my friends within comedy, all the people I'd started gigging with, and Holly was there as well, had all come along to
yeah,
film this, and they were basically part of this audience. They were all extras, and we were all, they'd given us cocktails at 10 in the morning, and we were going to be. I mean, like this was insane. This
love
whole thing
that.
was
I
nuts.
love that.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And then it got onto the semi-finals. And when you do the live shows, you don't see the VT packages before you go on, right? So I only heard
Mm,
about it afterwards. You don't get to watch the show. And I came out
mm.
afterwards, and the first text I got was from I think I got a text from you, Holly, and from someone else that just says they didn't even fucking use it. Like,
Yeah.
it's absolutely furious. Like, it's just the whole thing was mad. Like every bit of it felt like a fucking fever dream. Like just
Yeah.
ridiculous, really.
I
Absolutely
mean,
mad.
with mine again, they're like, "Oh, you can't tell anyone, but we want to come and film at your school." I was like, "Yeah," because kids notoriously
That's what I
great
had
at
as
keeping
well.
secrets. Like,
Yeah, yeah, we had. It was mad. It was mad. Like, because were you a music teacher?
yeah, I still am. I still do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh, I couldn't wait
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get out.
yeah.
I could not wait.
No, do you know what? I was like,
That's
it's
amazing.
it's been so. I mean, I'm only there like 2 days a week, and like it has been so busy, especially since September. It's been crazy. But do you know when you're just like I spent so much time kind of like with these kids and kind of like getting them to a kind of place where I wanted them to be, and then I was like, I'm not now like passing them on to someone
Yeah.
else. Putting too
Yeah,
much
I mean,
work
that's
in.
absolutely fair
So
enough. Yes.
yeah. It's nice. I think I would feel very differently about it as well if I was, say, like in a because I once, especially like when the show was on, once I was in school, you feel kind of safe. You're in like a kind of gated
Yeah.
place. Obviously, the kids are very excited, but it's not like I maybe work in kind of retail where you would have random people just walking in and seeing you. So you kind of just feel quite like, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I kind of like it, and obviously it's very grounding. When we
Oh,
did the
yeah.
final, it's like I did that. We did the final, and then I think I had the Monday off, and the Tuesday I was back in, and they were like, "Wow, you're amazing!" And then 2 minutes later, they're not listening to me, and
Yeah.
so it's quite good to just keeps me feeling normal.
Yeah. I mean, I had it where we did the final on the Sunday night. I was invited to go on Lorraine on the Monday morning, and then 24
Mm,
hours later, I was teaching maths to a bunch of 7-year-olds, and it was like that.
yeah,
If that doesn't tell you how crazy the show is, like the ride of ups and downs, like
yeah,
was mad. When the show aired, I was doing like long-term supply, so I was
yeah,
basically based with one class. And so for the first like couple of days after it aired, they were like absolutely thrilled by it and amazed. And then after that, they were like, "So what happens next? You going to be any good?" Like literally,
yeah,
I was getting worse abuse from the kids than I was from the tabloids. Like I was getting the
yeah.
worst critics. So, but then yeah, so I left at the end of the school year. I decided like I was doing long term supply sort of anyway, really, and where I was
Yeah.
covering a class and I'd been covering a few different classes, and I just decided that it was the right time for me to like I could go on and do it and pursue this sort of full time. But then
Mm.
we've both done weirdly similar things. I don't know if you know this or not, but we've both turned on our town's Christmas lights. That's
Yeah.
that's crazy, isn't it? How do you react when that call comes in? That's bad, isn't
I
it?
know. Mate, I can't tell you when that email came through, I was so excited. I was
Yeah,
like,
I was sort of very honoured by it, but also like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, they've got the wrong guy, surely. Like, this is mad. Like,
yeah.
it was,
It's
yeah.
yeah. But no, it was really great. And I had like loads of like family and friends and stuff come to see it as well, which was really nice. So yeah, it was really cool actually. I enjoyed doing that.
This year, we're again, things just seem to be growing for the both of us. You're doing a live show in Milton Keynes, and that's incredibly exciting.
Yes. Well, I just yeah,
You look terrified.
it's exciting and very
I've never
nerve-wracking.
seen a reaction like
I mean,
that.
the thing is, I mean, you two probably are both like pros. Go out, do a live show. It's fine. Like, I like, I obviously perform live, but the thing that I did on the show, I'm less used to doing live, and to now kind of like stretch it out into a full show of my own, like, a 90-minute show, you're like, oh, that's quite a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, it is. That is a lot. That's intense, isn't it? That is intense. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
exciting. I mean, for us, that's why we obviously do it, me and Holly, because it's what we love. That live is just something completely different to anything else, and you just don't. The unpredictability of it is so exciting, especially over a longer format. It's really cool. But I mean, you just said we're both pros. We did a gig together in New York last week. We ain't pros. That's not. we ain't pros at all.
That
We
was
had
a nice gig.
we had an interesting time.
It was a
It was
good
it was
gig.
nice, but there's times where you look at it and go, we were both sat
Yeah.
at the back just like having a chat, and then it's like, oh shit, we should be on stage. Like, literally,
Yeah,
the
no,
whole thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
It's
yeah, it's really exciting live though. It's so exciting.
no,
It's such a
it is.
different experience.
It's really exciting, and I thought I would do like just a one-off because, like, I mean, I had kind of off the back of the show, like, a couple of offers to like go do um, like, create a show of my own and do a tour with like other companies, but it just like didn't
Pretty cool.
feel quite right. Do you know when you're just like, I don't want to be like
Yeah.
performing to like an empty room. So
All right,
I
mate.
was like,
That's not my career, mate. Let's not dig deep into that.
but no, but I mean, consequently, I sort of have like now waited a year, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think by then, like, I'll do one and see how it goes. But yeah, but I mean, there's just like because I've got a bit of help, but just logistically, there is so much to organize, which I didn't realize, and
Yes.
I am not an organized person. So it's yeah, it's just crazy, like the sort of things you have to organize. Um, to do it, like, the guy that I was with, he's like, so have you thought about lights and stuff? I was like, what do you mean? Is there not light? We've just rented a space. Is there not lights there already? He's like, no, you've got to order them as
You
well. I was
just
like,
turn on.
but why? But why though? Doesn't make sense. Yeah. So just lots of stuff you don't think of, I guess. But it's a learning experience. We'll say that.
Are you doing it
Yeah,
all
that's fun
yourself?
stuff.
Yeah, yes, it is going to be on my own. But I know this is there may be a couple of like little guests come in and do like a little song with me or something. But yeah, it's all just going to be all going to be me. And I mean, I think the thing of like, still kind of going and doing like the singing impressions thing. Every time I go and do a gig, I still get like incredibly nervous because I'm still not really used to doing it. Like, I think if it's like singing, like I can go sing, I can do that all day. Like, that's really easy. But kind of going and doing like an impressions thing, I'm like, oh God, and I get very like, anxious about it. And I think I've been quite fortunate. So I was like managing the first gig that I got after the show. They were like, we only need 4 minutes. I was like, okay, 4 minutes. Yep, can do 4 minutes. And the next one was like a 6-minute one, and then it was getting gradually bigger. But so to then go from like 10 minutes and be like, now I need an hour and a half. It's like hard to do impressions for that long. Like, I've tried.
Yeah. It's an unbelievable skill as well. It's sort of like the amount of practice and learning that must go into it. I mean, with us, we write a joke, we go to a new material night, we try out the joke, and if it works, we go, we'll keep that and we'll do it again. And then we just have to learn 5 sentences, right? That's literally what we have to do. Like, not, I don't want to pull back the curtain too much. It's piss easy, anyone can do it. Like, that's how I do it. And your impressions are so immaculate and so rehearsed that it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I say it a lot. Like when we did Britain's Got Talent, I was sat at the rehearsals of the final. I was sat at the back of the Apollo watching people go about their craft. You've got people like you. You've got Sydney who was singing, who was amazing. You've got Innocent who was doing he's an opera singer. It was absolutely fantastic. You had this martial arts group who were jumping over fire and kicking the shit out of woods, and you had this woman who trained these dogs to dance, and I'm at the back just popping Maltesers like, this is great. Like, it was literally this whole time it was just ridiculous. Like, I have like the utmost respect for it because the effort to go into a 90-minute show, the amount of rehearsal and craft that must take is
Yeah.
absolutely
No, I mean, I think, but it's just, I guess it's what isn't it? Like, it's sort of, sometimes some of them do feel like hard work, but generally it's not too bad. But that said, like when I've done a couple of shows, I tried to write a few jokes, and they were just like, they were awful. And I sort of like went in, and do you know when you kind of go in and you say like the punchline first, you're like, and so
We've all been there.
and I was kind of like, yeah, like that to me was very, it got to the point because I was trying to like script as much as possible to alleviate the stress, but actually like kind of having like a joke that had to land in a certain way, I was like, this is too much effort. So one night I was like, just have a chat, just do one where you're just gonna have a bit of a chat. And it felt like it was so much easier to kind of have a chat and like crack a couple of jokes about Barbara in the audience rather than like, trying to. I mean, I would love to be able to do kind of I'll keep trying. Write me something.
It's such a I mean, but that's the beauty of live as well. It's like you said, the unpredictability of it, and that's just fun and being able to do it off the cuff. They're the bits we do it for, enjoy it. I mean, I've been going for a few years now. When did you start, Hollie? When did you? How old were you when you started?
I'm just under 2 years in.
Yeah, so I mean,
Wow.
do you still have that sort of nerves? I mean, when you go on stage, do you still have them like quite badly, or are you sort of at a point where you're going, I sort of know what I'm doing now?
So when I first started, I used to get really angry, and I am quite the opposite of an angry person, and like I was angry for like 3 days beforehand, and I'm talking about like going to an open mic. I was going to an open mic to do 10 minutes to like 5 people, and I was an angry person for 3 days. Like, me and my partner were all the time because I was just like an absolute prick. And now, like, it's not until they actually say your name that I suddenly go, oh fuck, and then I like feel like I can't breathe. But it's for seconds, and then as soon as, it's such a cliche thing to say, but as soon as you get that first laugh, then you're just like, this is fine. And sometimes you don't get that, so then it's just like 20 minutes of oh shit. But no,
it's just convincing yourself that you're good enough.
Yeah,
that's what
I think. Sometimes though, you do kind of get a crowd, and no matter, it doesn't matter. I guess if you're doing comedy or singing or whatever, and do you just get a sense of like, you're like, why are you not here to enjoy yourselves? Like, because there's that just atmosphere in the air. It's like, oh, you guys don't want to have fun. You want to beat me up.
We're talking about this, coming back to the point of the podcast. Sometimes, so we talk about like comedy audiences. So there'll be like comedy savvy audiences that come along. A lot of the time when you have like a queer night on, they think, yay, gays, not yay, comedy. And then they'll come along and not really know what to expect. And I've heard from a lot of people that there can be like more difficult nights when they're more like, woo, we're here to support the gays, as opposed to we're here to support comedy. Because I remember like going to see my first live comedy show that wasn't like a famous person, and you're very much like, what is going on? Like, you've got multiple people, and you're just like, I don't think I get this. It's a format that you kind of got to get used to.
It's definitely a weird one when you start out in comedy, because like the way comedy goes. I mean, you were saying it earlier, where like off the back of the show, you were doing sort of 5 minutes, then 7 minutes. It's very similar with comedy. Like the first week you get a 5-minute open spot, and that's a 5 minutes where they're basically trying you out and going, is this person any good? And in 5 minutes, that's no time at all. That's so hard. And then you go from 5 to 10s to 20s, and then you might get started to be paid to do a couple of bits of 10 minutes, and then you might get paid to do 20 minutes, and then you can then step up into the clubs and stuff. So it's like, it's just a very weird dynamic. And from people from the outside of it, just punters coming in to watch it, they don't understand that. When I'm doing 20 minutes opening a club, they don't come in and go, oh, this guy, if he does well tonight, maybe in 6 months' time, he'll be able to close this club. Like, that's not what an audience is thinking, not at all. Like, they don't view it as they're not seeing it as a trial, you know what I mean? So it's a very sort of interesting and subjective thing. In terms of like our experience to the audience experience is very, very different. But like, nerves are crazy every time I get on stage. I mean, for the first year I did it, I'd make myself physically ill before going on stage. Like, I was that nervous every time. Like, it was horrific. But eventually that kind of thing does subside. And like I say, within minutes of being on stage, it then just feels natural, and you convince yourself that actually you can do it and you are good enough at it. And that's what really excites me.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like that. It is weird. I mean, I've always been, and again, maybe it's the kind of the same with you, but even in like teaching, and I think it's maybe like performery type people, because we're a sensitive bunch. Unless people are kind of like, even if I'm teaching, unless students are going like, oh my God, that was such a good lesson. I'm like, they didn't like it. They hated the lesson. They hate music. And it's kind of sometimes the same with the gigs. Unless people are kind of really into it, I'm like, well, it was obviously shit.
Certainly in the beginning, it's like any amount of reaction is a good reaction. And then as you go on and progress, you can come off, and then people are like, that was really good. And you think, no, that was really shit. I had like that wasn't a good reaction. And then you think back and you're like, oh, people were laughing or like enjoying it. You could tell that people were enjoying it throughout. And it's as you progress that you just need more and more and more, like, what?
Yeah.
Drug addicts. Just like,
I just think with those things though, it doesn't it sometimes it just all it takes for you is to see that, like, just catch the eye of like one person in an audience kind of whilst they're having a yawn, or maybe they're just like looking to the side, and you kind of get that sense that they're not into it. And even you could have a whole bunch of everyone else kind of like loving it, but it's really easy to tune into that thing. Do you know what I mean? Which
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, sometimes it's the kind of nice thing with being on like more like kind of stages with like lights and things. It's like, oh, at least I can't see what you're doing back there. Because I mean, I've ended up going to do kind of quite a lot of like corporate stuff. So it's more like dinner parties and things like that, which are all these kind of amazing events, but you're all in the room, like you can see.
You're so exposed at those kind of events. Like, it is just you and a microphone, and these people go. I think when you're on stage and you're doing a show, you've got the guys of, I've written a good show. Like, me and Hollie have both performed our debut hour-long shows this year. And like, again, we could hide behind, after you've done it the first time, you could really hide behind the fact that it was like, this is a good show. Like, and you can wear that sort of like as a badge of honor and go, that's my armor, that I know this is good. And I think that's sort of the, so when you do those ones where you book like private parties or dinner parties, or those kind of corporate gigs, that's more scary because you don't know what they want. You don't even know if they know you're coming. Like, that's the kind of scary bit. Like, but it is very exciting.
And also, your audience in those situations are kind of just like there. Do you know what I mean? They've not been like, oh, I've booked to go and see, or I really want to see. Like, they're just there.
They're just present. They're just
they're kind of like,
oh, here's this guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's this guy that I saw on TV and I fucking hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the number of times I get stopped in the street by people who are like, oh, I saw you on the telly. I didn't think you were that good. Like, the number of times that has happened to me is beyond belief.
There is nothing worse than being seen by proxy. It's like, even doing your show, like, there's half of the audience that actually wanted to come and see you, and then the rest of people that they've brought along, and it's like, oh, you don't want to be here. You're just the partner of the person that wanted to be here.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
I always seem to get stopped on the way to the toilet, which
all the
seems
time
to be like Mac's place. Or do you know what else as well? The other place I don't really like is when it's like, just those nights where it's long, and like I might have, me and my boyfriend were driving back from somewhere and he wants to go to McDonald's, so we go in, and then I'm like, oh, I'll go and sit inside, and then you see someone like looking at you from the corner of your eye, you're like, look fucking rough. I'm in my like slippers or something, and it's like, do you know what I mean? And he's like, I was just watching you on Britain's Got Talent, and I was like, I had one guy actually. This was quite funny. He was on his phone and he looked up and saw me. He's like, I'm just watching you, and like showed me his phone. And I found that quite funny because like, that must have been really quite bizarre for him. But
it's just a really weird complex.
Yeah, I mean, largely though, everyone kind of that I've met in person has been really, really complimentary, like quite nice. I mean, I think I'm lucky in the sense that like what I do is like there's not many people that do it in exactly the way I do it, and I do think not for everyone, but I think there are a select amount of people for they see a comedian on these sorts of shows, or they see a singer like Sydney and they're like, I could do that, and so they don't realize that like there's a kind of skill and effort that goes into it. They're like, I'm funny. It's like, yeah, but Kevin, that's different. So and so I think I can kind of I mean, the only like kind of negative feedback I can get is that I don't think that sounds like insert name, but that's your problem.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, like when you do a show, I didn't realize how much work was going to take place actually on the show. Like when you do a show at Britain's Got Talent, like the amount of effort in terms of I would put together a set, send it off to producers, and they'd go, "You can do that." They're like, "You can't do that joke, or you can't do this skit, this bit. You can't this routine. You can't do." And I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." And they'd be like, "There you go." And it literally the amount of work that went into that, and like, I mean, Britain's Got Talent dominated my life for 9 months. Like it was literally, and that's what I thought when the show ended. That was the hardest part of it, really. Like the day after the final, it was like, what do I do now? Like it was so weird when the show ended because it was like it'd been 9 months of my life. The next day afterwards, just that being gone was very weird.
Mm.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, and I mean, I think the kind of yeah. I think when like it ends, it just all feels quite unceremonious, and you're like, oh, so
Yeah,
we're done. Like I was outside the flyover under the flyover outside the theatre. Sorry, and I was with my
yeah,
producer who was beautiful. She was lovely. She was like, "So we're done then?" And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay. Do you know when you're just like, do you know what would have been nice? Get all 10 of us in a room for 5 minutes, give us a little glass prosecco, say, well done, it's done, go home. Like, and then it puts like a
yeah,
line under it. I also think like that because of the way they do it in that week, like it's quite an intense week, especially. And when you're on site round there, like, I mean, you can't even take a piss without someone like being with you, and all of a sudden you're on your own, like, oh. But I kind of, yeah, it is something that kind of becomes quite it does take over like a large part of your life. Like, I mean, I think just
yeah,
even despite me saying that, the whole impressions thing was like something I started doing, and then 2 months later they were like, oh, do you want to send off an audition? I was like, oh, okay, why not? And then it sort of kept going on, but it still
yeah,
takes up a large chunk of time.
Mm.
I mean, for that
yes,
semi-final performance, I think I must have sent them about 35 different
yeah.
impressions, like
God.
just like
That's wild.
just trying to like churn them out, and being like, just please, I'm trying to do this as quick as possible, so just take it for what it is, and I can improve it, or it can be this.
Yeah,
I watched some of the videos back, and I got like stains down my t-shirt, and I look absolutely wired, like where I've obviously just been sat there all day, like trying to get something
hours.
done to send off. Yeah, to send off.
Yeah,
And then you get the feeling of like, could you try doing it? And you're like, oh. So it's, and I mean, I think that the strange thing for me as well, like so much effort goes into that semi-final performance. And, from the
yes.
outset, they're like, and start preparing a final as well. And you're like, oh,
No
that
one
thing
does
you talked
that.
about. Yeah. And then it's kind of like, for the final, so for the semi-final, I had like, 4 months to organize what I was doing. And actually, if anything, I think it kind of, because obviously the production are quite heavily involved with that semi-final performance, it kind of like
Mm.
changes quite dramatically from where, which I think that's the point of it, but from where like you start.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like I
100%.
didn't I didn't entirely like love my semi-final performance. And no one's fault, but do you know, which by the time it gets to the thing, you're like, I've done this so much now, and I don't feel happy with certain bits of it, and do you know what I mean? Whereas the final one, it's like
Yeah, 100%.
you've got 2 days, better work on it, and it's very like,
Yeah,
I think because time's short, it's like just put in what you know, so you just go and put things in that you know, and it kind of I felt very like myself again, which was quite nice.
that's really nice.
The main thing that I found kind of doing like impressions. So one thing I found, I can do them even in front of people that don't know who the artist is. But if the change from one impression to another is like significant enough, people find that impressive as well. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that
So
is
it's like,
interesting.
oh,
Yeah, yeah,
cool, he had that voice and now that voice. I don't know if that's the right voice, but it's different. Um, and like
yeah.
the semi-final for me, like all kind of like sat in a very similar part of my voice, and so I kind of, and I think you take into account nerves, and you take into account everything, and I was just a bit like, I just didn't enjoy it as much as I had wanted to, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And I think like there were a couple of impressions that we were going to do, and we had to take them out because we couldn't get So obviously, because there's videos, you need licensing for everything, like video licensing. So they had
Yeah,
to be
of
pulled
course.
out, and it like when I kind of had got through the semi final, like I don't know, I was just really I, obviously I was like, this is amazing, this is insane, but also I think the because I hadn't enjoyed it, and I was like, I could have done that a lot better. I kind of still felt a bit deflated about it all. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like, oh, I could have done
Yeah,
amazing. By the time the final came, I was
yeah,
very, I felt a lot more like, okay, we're just here to do a show. Fine. Like
yeah,
the kind of the jeopardy of it for me had dissipated somewhat by the final. I was like, oh, we're just all doing this like cool show. Great. Like
yeah,
there wasn't really a thing in me at the time that was going, um, you need to win or you should win. Or, like, do you know what I mean? That for me,
yeah, yeah,
that
of
wasn't.
course.
I mean, I was obviously thinking about it, being like, I would love the money, but but yeah. So I kind of felt by the end of it like quite, yeah, like I was involved in this really big production, rather
Yeah,
than like a talent show, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I loved it. It was an incredible experience, and I got everything I wanted out of it. And I hope it was the same for you.
Yeah, 100%. I had like a blast. Like, and I think, sometimes people
Yeah,
ask you about it and they kind of, I think they want you to say often, say that you were manipulated into doing things by producers and it was
yeah,
horrible. And it really wasn't. Like, it was kind of, there are people there that are there to make a TV show and they are expert at making a TV show. And so you kind of choose to take their advice to make a good TV show or not.
yeah,
Um, and
uh,
and that sort of do you know what I mean? And that really is the end of it. But I had like
yeah,
I had a great there's nothing that I would kind of do differently. Do you know what I mean about it? Like I kind of
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to do that semi-final a bit better, but in terms of the whole process, I just
I'd like
you
to
know
win. That would be my.
yeah,
I'd like the
I'd like to
money.
do that. Do you think?
That would be
Oh,
me.
good.
I'll be honest,
Good.
all this chat has done has made me want to apply for Britain's Got Talent this year. So.
Do
It's a
it.
wild. Yeah, do it,
I
do it,
am
do
I'm
it.
not
Make
family friendly enough to be able to do Britain's Got Talent.
it. I didn't think I was. Because the amount of stuff that gets cut, like I must have wrote almost 2 hours of material that had to be family friendly. And I think that's the thing I found at the minute is like off the back of that show, people come to my shows and they want to see the Britain's Got Talent
Mm.
comedian. And I'm now sort of going,
Yeah.
I'll give you the Britain's Got Talent comedian, but I'll also give you a bit of this is who I want to be. And I'm starting to try and subtly try and change that kind of narrative is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's an
No,
interesting one, really.
I kind of very much feel that as well, and it's like
Yeah.
and and I mean, it's not to say that person that you saw on that show wasn't me. That that's obviously a
Yeah, of
part of
course.
me,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not it's not who I am all the time. Like you say, maybe just like change that persona a bit. But you don't want to like put people off. Do you know what I mean? I do want to get to it's nice to go on stage and feel like you're being yourself rather than a kind of edited version
Yeah.
of you. But I think you're right in though that I think it would be stupid to like be on that show and then the next day, your first gig after you go and it's all swearing and it's all this and it's talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
like I think audiences just need like a slight, they need a transition period, I think, to see kind of
Yeah.
what the change or the evolution or the whatever and sort of do it with you, I
Yeah.
guess.
But also, like the best shows are the balance of that anyway. The things we do in terms of comedy and your singing and your live shows and stuff, I think it's very much people respect it when we are just ourselves and honestly just being who
Mm,
we are and show that we're having a bit of fun. I think that's what people
mm,
respect. And for me, that's what this podcast's about. It's just like people being happy enough and comfortable enough in their own skin and just being who they want to be and trying to promote that is really nice and people respect that. People love to see that.
And really, I think that is a great place to wrap this up. So thank you so much for listening at home, and thank you, Mike, for joining us. You can get tickets to see Mike live on the 1st of March at the Chrysalis in Milton Keynes. You can get tickets now from mikewoodhams.co.uk/tickets, always /tickets. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Mike.
This has been Queers On. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next week.